Good morning, family. How are we doing this morning? Y'all turn awake, all right. How are you doing this morning? Come on. Give me some energy. We're here to worship the King. Will you please stand? Let's worship together. Every side of you. Rise this morning, the Sunday's empty tomb. Sin swing as impossible, every side of you. This is the sound of a job on the side of me. This is the basement that made one. Open the grave, I'm gonna end up living. This is the sound of time on silent. I'm so tired, searching something new. Come on. Resurrection power, we're rising by this soon. I believe in another miracle in this world. This is the sound of God and we're proud of it. This is the place that you get and walk in. Open the grave, I'm coming out, I'm coming in. This is the sound of God, oh God, my God is able to save and deliver and restore anything that He wants to. Just as the man who was thrown on the bones of Elijah, He bears anything that He gets to. Just as He stole out the gold at the tomb. This is the place that you live and walk through. Open the grave, I'm coming out, I'm gonna live again. Open the grave, I'm coming out, I'm gonna live again. Open the grave, I'm coming out, I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of God on Saturday. I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah, and I remember the unbelief Come on. I'll raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody. I'll raise a hallelujah. Heaven comes to fight for me. Hallelujah, with everything inside of me, I raise a hallelujah. And I will watch the darkness flee. I raise a hallelujah. I raise the hallelujah. You lost your hold on me. Sing a little louder. Sing a little louder. Oh, sing a little louder. 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 Oh, sing a little louder. Sing a little louder. you're here. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Come on, sing it. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. Come on. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Listen. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Come on, Phil. Oh, that is who you are. 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 Oh, that is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are. Miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. Come on, church, declare that. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, God is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, God is who you are. 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 Miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, God is who you are. Come on, sing that this morning. 'Cause you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, God is who you are. We worship you this morning. We praise you. And we lift you up because you are the miracle worker, the way maker. You made a way for us. You sent your son to die on the cross for us to save us because you loved us so much. And we thank you for that sacrifice this morning. And we ask for your Holy Spirit to just flood this place. Fill this place. Let your Spirit rain on us. This morning, God, we praise you. We love you, Father, and we love each other. Amen.
Amen. Good morning, Great City. Pastor Thomas in the front. What the energy? Let me have some of that. I need that. Welcome. If you're joining us online or in person, we're just glad to have you. Thank you for joining us. A few announcements before we continue to worship together. First one, August 18th from 9 to 11 a.m., Lake Cares is asking if anyone would be able to help. They've had an increase in people coming for help, so if you have time to serve, you can be a blessing to them. We know it's been a trying time for a lot of people, so extra hands are always helpful. Amen? Good. For our students, August 25th, we've been talking about it. We have a back-to-school bash coming. Will be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And I miss you guys. Pastor Jerry, miss you. We miss you guys. Can't wait to see you guys and reconnect with you. So we're going to have a back-to-school bash for the youth. Doors will open at 6 o'clock, where you can just come hang out with us, just cool it. And then at 6:30, the actual event gets started. All right. So last announcement, speaking of worship, August 28th, we're having a worship night. Once again, doors open at 6, so you can come in, sit down, get situated. And I said 9:30. I told you I'm not a morning person. 6:30, the actual worship night gets kicked off. All right. So at this time, meet and greet, yo in a bow to your neighbor, and share the energy because I need some.
Well, hey there. Good morning, church fam. How are you this morning? Good. I missed you. I was with you in spirit last week, if not in person. But it's good to be back with you. And this morning, man, I'm coming in jazzed up. I'm so excited to be able to be with you and to jump back into this book, Nehemiah. If you have your Bible and you want to follow along with us, we'll be in Nehemiah chapter 2. We're going to hit most of the chapter, not every verse, but most of it this morning. But I don't know about you. Have anybody been watching the Olympics? Is it just me? Like, I've been all in. It's actually been really fun to have my boys snuggle up next to me on the couch and watch these stories and watch it unfold. And last night, I'm not sure if you caught it, but last night, the U.S. overtook first place on the medal point, 39 gold medals to China's 38. Woohoo! Not that it matters. It's not like it's a competition. Right? Like, I was like, yeah! I mean, I've totally been in it. Like, when Suni Lee, I mean, just killing it. So fun to watch her. Simone Biles. You just keep scrolling through these. Simone Biles and coming back after losing her aunt this week and all kinds of just emotional, and then to come back and go back on the beam and win another medal. Kevin Durant watching the guys play basketball. I was just going nuts. You're like, yeah, like, come on, team. Come on, the relay. Allison Phoenix and the ladies and the guys in relay. But, man, I'm just killing it out there. She's coming home with like 85 medals. This guy, this might be my favorite, Gabe Stevenson. Anybody catch this one? If you did not, you need to look this up. I mean, literally the final second wrestling, the final second, he turns out, wins the thing. Then the best part, sorry, I had my caffeine this morning. The best part, he does a backflip after it. That guy does not look like the backflip kind of guy, but he just like, wah! Like he's ready to, like, okay, wrestling's not enough. I'm going on the beam next. Like, he was ready to go. Like, there's a vacancy on the gymnastics squad. I got you right here. I just love that picture so much. I just want to stay there for one more second and appreciate I love the guy in the background. He's really enjoying the moment. Are you not entertained? I mean, like, I was totally, and like, for me, some of the best parts about it are the stories behind the big story, right? Like, when you start hearing these little details, like Allison Phoenix, who just got, I mean, she's got more medals now than Carl Lewis. She's coming home, she's got 11 medals now. But she's also a super mom. 2 years ago, she had a pregnancy that almost killed her. And then she came in, and she's like, hey, I'm a mom, and her sponsor all but dropped her. They're like, well, you know, we're not sure how valuable you're going to be, and so they dropped her. She's like coming home with a bag full of medals, right? Like, ooh. And if I'm really being honest, some of my favorite parts of the Olympics is actually, it's a guilty pleasure. It's during the gymnastics when they actually kind of mess up a little bit. Like, you know, I know it's wrong. I know I shouldn't get excited about it. I feel like I'm being judged. But, like, you know, like when they're flipping, I got to shout out to Mike B for this one. But when they're flipping around, they're like, whoa, this is not going to end well. And then no matter how it went, they're like, right at the end? I mean, it's true. I was watching some highlights of this one girl. She comes and she's like, vault, and didn't flip all the way. She lands right on her rear, like, and then I was just like, yes. I mean, so, and all the while they're doing that, this is me. I mean, here's the picture of this is me. Right? Like, man, these people are doing some really amazing stuff. And I mean, I think that maybe sometimes that's a little bit, if not, look, if you were on the couch watching Olympics, I'm not judging you, I was with you. But sometimes I can feel like a pretty big metaphor for our lives, right? It's like, man, those other people are doing really amazing things. Can you pass the popcorn? Do we have any more Snickers ice cream bars left in the freezer? My wife loves me. She just picked up a whole box of Snickers ice cream bars last night. And then I was actually a little worried because I'm supposed to do a wedding ceremony for some friends this weekend, and I'm really not sure if I'm going to make it into the suit, and I think she's setting me up for failure. But we're just like, content to just sit there and be like, man, those other people, man, they're doing something really, wow, that's awesome. And just kind of, and sometimes I can feel like we're just kind of hanging out on the couch of life. And here's the big picture of the series as we're working through Nehemiah together. Is that there is a good work that God desires to do in you, and that there is a good work that God desires to do through you. That God wants to do a powerful work. I love what Pastor Thomas talked about last week. About this God takes the ordinary and just slaps extra right in front of it. That he just, and I love reading through the scriptures. You have all these stories of these underdogs. Right? Like the ones that, like the David story, everybody just looks over and he's like, no, you, man, I see it. And when you read and you hear these stories about these athletes and these Olympians, you start to realize, man, they aren't kind of like us. Yeah. But there is a good work that God desires to do in you and that God desires to do through you. Check it out. Here's just some scripture to kind of remind you. Philippians 2:12. Continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. I love that phrase. You're like, fear and trembling. I'm supposed to be scared because God rescued me? I mean, what is Paul saying there? He wants you to take this seriously. To be so wrapped up with awe at what God's done in you and what God is doing through you. That he's like, no, Paul's like, it didn't just end with, okay, I prayed a prayer, I trusted Jesus, now I just get to sit on the couch, right? He goes, no, go for it. Continue to work out your salvation with fear and with trembling. Why? You go work, go do it. Why? Because it's God who works in you. Verse 13. For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose. God has a purpose in your life that is way bigger than chips and salsa, than collecting seashells, than Netflix and chill. God has way bigger dreams for your life than you do. He's got purposes. He wants to do something in you, a massive, powerful work in you and through you. It's God who works in you as you're working out your salvation with fear and trembling. Ephesians 2:10. For we are, you remember 2:8 and 9 talks about it's by grace that you're saved through faith. It's because we just trust God and he rescues us. It's all we do is trust. It's faith. And God rescues us. Nothing we can do, so we can't brag about it. And you're like, cool, I got that memorized, prayed that prayer, I'm moving on. It's like, no, verse 10, for we are God's handiwork, the church. This is God's masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to go do something. To go do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. And that phrase, good works, shows up over and over in this book, Nehemiah. It's this thing. It's like, no, there's this good work. And so if you're with us, Nehemiah chapter 2, we're going to continue and look through the rest of this story, or the next part of this story with Nehemiah, and how God's working in him and how God's working through him. But here's honestly, if we were to be honest, if I were allowed to be honest with you, the place that we are and the place where we want to be, the difference between where you're at and where you want to be, it really only comes down to the work you're willing to put in and the pain you're willing to endure. I mean, that place where you're at right now, on the couch, and that place that God desires for you, the difference between those is really, it's just the work you're willing to put in and the pain you're willing to endure. This morning I want to talk more about the work you're willing to put in. What are some of those key ingredients, the essentials, the basic principles, the building blocks? What are those things to help you actually not just say, hey, yeah, that would be cool if, pass the nachos, but what are the steps in order for God to be work through me and this good work that God's calling me to? What are those basic principles, those nitty gritty, those essentials, what are those? And then next week, we'll look a little bit more at the pain and the obstacles and what comes. So we're in Nehemiah. Just a little bit of background so you understand what's going on in Nehemiah. Because you're like, I open this book and there's these words and there's a story here. There's a guy in Nehemiah. What's this about? What's going on? A little bit of backdrop. In 587, Jerusalem, the holy city, God's city, this light, it was supposed to be a light to the nations, this shining thing, this city, this this amazing city, Jerusalem and Israel, they get conquered by the Babylonians. And Jerusalem and the temple in 587, they're destroyed, and God's people are sent out into exile. They're gone. They're all over the known world at the time. Now, a little bit later, the Babylonians conquered them, but in 539, what goes around comes around. Here come the Persians, and they conquer the Babylonians. And so the Persians are now in control, and they got the Persian Empire. And that's spread throughout the world. But the Persians are like, I guess you guys can go back home. You know, if you want to go back, sure, I guess you guys could go back home, whatever. We don't really have use for you here. We have use for some of you, but not all of you. So some of them start traveling back home. By 515 BC, the temple's rebuilt. And by 445 BC, Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 1 starts. So you got kind of a little bit of a time frame. Here's what the history is going on. Now, if your country had been conquered, and imagine this for a second, like this place where we gather to worship burned to the ground. And just absolute desolate, destroyed, ransacked. Your home, ransacked. Your friend's home, your neighborhood, ransacked. People take what they want, burn the rest, send you and your kids off wherever they want into slavery. But now you're able to come back home, and that's great and all. But where do you go from there? There's no school system. There's no church. There's no place to worship together. There's no okay, where do we get our groceries? It's like, where's the nearest Target? You got to start fresh. You got to rebuild this whole thing. And so they rebuild, start building the temple, and they start doing. And then there's this other area, the walls, that Nehemiah hears about, and he's especially heartbroken. It's like, this is the first thing that you're seeing as you're coming, and it's a disgrace. He describes that. It's a disgrace. It's desolate. And it's not that, because Nehemiah knows better. He knows our protection isn't in a wall. He knows our protection is in God. Some trust in chariots, some in horses. We trust in God. But the walls, he's like, man, it's a disgrace. That's such a poor representation of this God that we serve and his holy city and his nation. Lamentations is a lament on what happened when Jerusalem and when Israel, when it got destroyed. If you have some time, we don't have time to read through Lamentations this morning, but it's only a couple chapters. If you have time this week, I'd encourage you to read. It's not a happy book. It's a lament. It's horror. It's very vivid descriptive of everything is getting destroyed in graphic detail. It's like the purge in the house of God. Like, it's just, it's awful. Here's a little taste tester. Lamentations 1:12. He says, is it nothing to you, all who pass by? Look around and see. And then verse 16, he says, this is why I weep and my eyes overflow with tears. No one is here to comfort me. No one to restore my spirit. My children are destitute because the enemy has prevailed. He's like, my eyes are overflowing with tears when I see what's happened. And so Nehemiah, he hears what's happened to Jerusalem, what's happened to the walls, that they're disgraced, and it does something in him. It becomes the defining, his heartbreak, his anguish over it, moves him from where he's at to action, to this good work. He realized, and he is full in him. Mr. Thomas shared about last week, that journey from being the cupbearer to anguish over the destitution back in God's holy city. And now I want to put a quick disclaimer, because this book, Nehemiah, the book, his biggest concern is this wall. And Nehemiah, the person, his biggest legacy, if you read about him, is the wall. And I just want to put a quick disclaimer in here, an important one, because this is not a political thing for 2016 through 2021. Can I just go ahead and say that? Like, if you're like, haha, walls. And sometimes we try to do this. We take scripture and just insert it into the situation. We were reading in Ephesians a couple of years ago when we were going through the book of Ephesians and talking about how Jesus, and it's very clear, Paul writes in Ephesians that he is our peace that breaks down every wall. And somebody came up after me and they're like, hey, walls are important for a nation. And I'm like, I'm just reading the verse. I have no idea how you just attributed that. I'm talking about what Jesus, or what Paul says here about what Jesus says about the walls between us. So it's important we don't read into that. What we are reading into is what does God do? How does God work in Nehemiah and through Nehemiah to accomplish the good work that God specifically called him to do in this particular context? So here's a quick map. There's the timeline. Here's a quick map. Nehemiah, who's a Hebrew, he's a Jew, he's from Israel, is an exile. All he's ever known, actually, is Susa. He's in Persia, the capital. And he's there, and he hears about the rubble of this wall. The rubble of this wall. In Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 1, he finally, here we go, in the month of Nisan, Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 1. You can skip a couple slides ahead. I want to make sure they got this. And Nehemiah 2:1. In the month of Nisan, that's important. In the month of Nisan, this is not a car company. And I can't tell you how badly I want to make a dad joke right here, like 7 or 8 of them. They're right there, but we have no time to do so. So I'm just going to zoom right past them. Now, chapter 1, verse 1, it said it was in the month of Kislev that he starts hearing about the walls, and it breaks his heart. Here it's the month of Nisan. That's 4 months later, just in case you're keeping track. It says, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was brought before him, I took the wine and gave it to the king. I had not been sad in his presence before. Now, a lot is going on here, so I want to make sure we catch it. Chapter 1 ended with Nehemiah. You got to hear this detail that he was a cupbearer to the king. That sentence right there, that phrase, actually carries a lot of weight to it. Here's what we know about Nehemiah just from that little thing right there. He's the cupbearer to the king. Nehemiah, by the way, Nehemiah's name means God comforts. Who is going to comfort me? And years, decades later, God comforts through Nehemiah. He is a slave. He is a Hebrew. Right? He's a Hebrew slave, an exile, which means he's also a foreigner. He is living away from his home country. He's an immigrant, forced immigrant, exile into the Persian capital. And he's a Hebrew. He doesn't look like the rest of them that are in authority and in power. He doesn't look like the king of Persia. He's a slave. Servant to the king is a friendly way of saying he's a slave, meaning like, I do with you what I want, and if I get done with you and I don't want you anymore, I can just kill you. It's no big deal. That's just the way it works. He is a slave to the king. He's a foreigner. He's also most likely, because he's in the king's inner court, a eunuch, which is interesting. See, if you're the king and you've got all your ladies around you, you don't want any of your inner court hanging out with your ladies, and so you make sure that can't happen. This is a little bit graphic to have in a family service, but I'll just put it in the King James translation for you. Deuteronomy 23:1. He that is wounded in the stones or hath his privy member cut off, a.k.a. a eunuch, shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Now, take that for a second. So that means, to the people in Persia, Nehemiah's a slave, he's an outcast, but to his own people, it's like, man, you wouldn't even be allowed in the temple. You're not a priest. You're not a pastor. You're not a celebrity. You're not a king. You're not a what. He's just, what is it? He's kind of looked down by both sides in some ways. I mean, he's not the rock star. He's not the king. He's not the prophet. He's not the priest. He's not a contractor. So why do you care about a construction project or walls? He only has one thing going for him. He's the cupbearer to who? The king. The only thing he has going for him is he is close to who? The king. His life, his whole identity is wrapped up in what? The fact that he is close to the king. Any authority, any influence he has comes from the fact that he is close to the king. All that other stuff, whatever. Here's the big, most important detail in here. He is close to the king. And we can just park there. Here's a relief. It's currently in Tehran. Here's a picture of it. There's the picture. This is actually believed to possibly be Nehemiah on the far left. There's the king on the throne. Who's right next to him? The cupbearer. See, it's not about, I love what someone said last week. It's not about who we are. It's about whose we are. His whole life, Nehemiah's whole life, is wrapped up in the simple fact that he is close to the king. He's close to the king. Everything about him is wrapped up in that simple truth. Now, he's a wine bearer. What does that mean? Here's what that means. He's a cupbearer. It means, here's the cup, and he holds it. Now, parents understand this a little bit. It's like, hi, here, can you hold this for me? You ever have that? My kids are like, I don't want to hold it. I want you to hold it. I want you to carry it. It's just me? Okay, it just happens in the Bell house. But he's the cupbearer, meaning, here's what happens. He pours the wine. He samples the wine. I'm kidding. He samples the wine. This is a hard one for Baptists. Sorry. And then he serves the wine to the king. So he's extremely trusted. Why? Because essentially he's a filter going from like drinking the wine to make sure that the king doesn't get poisoned. So he's really careful and he's really big on quality control. Okay? You don't want the king to get poisoned. You also don't want to be poisoned yourself. It's interesting. I was thinking about this week. There's this argument. Just pause for a second. There's this argument in Matthew chapter 20 where Jesus' followers are arguing about who gets to be closest and who gets to sit next to his throne in heaven. Like who gets to be right up there close next to him. Which, Christians would never argue over such a thing. But Jesus turns and he's like, guys, you don't know what you're asking. He asks this question, can you drink the cup I'm going to drink? He's like, oh, you're in it with me? You want to be right up close to me? You want to share the same cup? Like I die, you die? I mean, what an image. What a vivid image. But think about it. Okay, so he's the cupbearer to the king. When would you probably need a cupbearer? When does the wine start flowing? When do you have a lot of wine? Well, you have it at your parties, at your banquets. It's red solo cup time, except the Persian version. Persian version is a great phrase. I love that. If you remember from other studies, like when we were in Esther, these guys knew how to party. Esther chapter 1, another Persian king says, hey, I'm going to throw a party for 180 days. Drink up. Drinks are on, the house bar is open. These guys drank a lot. They would party. And then they get to the end, and that king's like, let's party for another 7 days. Let's keep going. And he just keeps it going. Now, if you are the cupbearer, you're the guy serving the drinks at the party. It's festive. We're all having a blast. What is your general demeanor like? Debbie Downer, you're not, right? Your job is to make sure everybody is also having a good time. You're rolling with the king. You better have a smile on your face and look good. But Nehemiah comes in, and he's like, what? I'm heartbroken. And he can't hold it in. It's been 4 months. We can't hold it in. And I love this. Nehemiah 2:2. So the king asked me, why does your face look so sad when you're not ill? This can be nothing but sadness of heart. And I was very much afraid. Why? Because he might just kill you. Like, dude, you're Debbie Downer, and this is my party. Your job is to serve the wine and keep smiling and keep everybody else smiling. I love the literal translation of this. Why is your face so bad? I mean, what a great. Why is your face so bad? Nehemiah, why is your face so bad? Verse 3. But I said to the king, may the king live forever. Why should my face not look sad when the city where my ancestors are buried lies in ruins, and its gates have been destroyed by fire? And the king said to me, what is it you want? You notice that the king's just really direct. He's like, why your face so bad? What is it you want? And Nehemiah has lots of words. Why? Because the king's just like, all right, what do you want? He's the guy with all the power. What is it you want? And then I do what? I pray to the God of heaven. Nehemiah prays 14 times in this book. This guy's a man of prayer. And it is a pretty big deal. I mean, his life could be gone. It's also a big deal because what he's asking the king, what he's about to ask him, is actually to overturn something the king had already decided. It's like, hey, you know how you said this? It was in Ezra chapter 4. He had already given out a previous edict, and he's like, yeah, I'm really upset, but can you actually overturn your own word? Can you change your mind on this? In verse 5, and I answered the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in his sight, let him send me to the city in Judah where my ancestors are buried so that I can rebuild it. Here's my question on this. Which king is he talking to? And my answer would be yes. I mean, he's talking to the king. He's like, hey, king, if it pleases you, and if your servant has found favor in his sight, let him send me to the city in Judah where my ancestors are buried so I can rebuild it. I believe he actually is telling the king. But who else do I think? This is yet another prayer to the King of heaven. If it pleases the King of heaven, and if your servant has found favor in his sight, over and over, another one of the common refrains in Nehemiah is, God, I hope your servant finds favor in your sight. God, I'm your servant, and I hope when you look down at my life, it brings a smile to your face. It's fascinating, because he goes in here to this king, to this earthly king, to this pathetic excuse for a king compared to the King of Kings, the ruler of eternity, and he comes in with fear and anger and trepidation, fear and despair and scared and just afraid. But to the King of Kings, he welcomes our honesty. And we don't have to be afraid to go to the King of Kings. We can boldly go to the King and make our request. So he answers and says, man, if I found favor in your sight, can I please go back? Verse 6. Then the king, with the queen sitting beside him, asked me, how long will your journey take when you get back? And it pleased the king to send me, so I set a time. In chapter 5, we find out he set a time of 12 years. 12 years. Verse 7, I also said to him, well, while we're at it, if it pleases the king, may I have letters to the governor of Trans-Euphrates so that will provide me safe conduct until I arrive in Judah? And may I have a letter to Asaph, keeper of the royal park, so he will give me timber to make beams for the gates of the citadel, by the temple and for the city wall, and for the residence I will occupy. And because the gracious hand of my God was on me, the king granted my request. Verse 9, so I went to the governors of Trans-Euphrates and gave them the king's letters. The king also sent army officers and cavalry with me. Did you catch what just happened? So the Persian king had put out an edict, hey, no more building projects over in Israel. Nehemiah, whose job is just to sit there and pour the wine and be happy, goes up, why your face so bad? What you want? Can you send me back? All right, I'll send you back. How long? 12 years. And while we're at it, here's my supply list. Can I have some of your, can I hit the Lowe's over here and grab some extra stuff? And while we're at it, I'd like an armed guard because I need to go through this area. And it's a little, can you send a guard with me? And what just happened? Nehemiah just performed the ultimate Jedi mind trick. I mean, he's sitting there, he's like, you will do this. Like, how did this happen? The Persian king can just sit there and be like, no, you're dead. Instead, he's like, all right, we'll do that. Guys, if you are missing the subtext here, Nehemiah is about to build a wall. And the king of Persia is going to pay for it. That's crazy. That doesn't happen. That's nuts. But that's what happened. If it pleases the king, will you send me out to do this? And it pleased the king. Here's a couple of things I want to gather from the text this morning. Here's some things I want to encourage you with. Remember, the gap between where you are and where you want to be, the gap between where you are and God's dream for your life, is the work you're willing to put in and the pain you're willing to endure. And so here's some basic ingredients. Here's some essentials. Here's the things that I think are just essential in order for God to do this good work in you and to do the good work that He is calling you to. as you work out your salvation with fear and trembling, as you are called to good works because this God has rescued you, and your life is more than just building a 401k, and your life is more than just Netflix and chill, then your life is just more than the vacation or the collecting of seashells, that God is actually calling you to make a difference in this world. How do I do it? How do I get from here to there? Here's some things. The very first ingredient we talked about last week, it's passion. Passion. These are all going to be P's, by the way. Passion. Feel it. Is it nothing to you, all who pass by? What are those things in your life that that you see that just cause an ache inside you? And maybe you can numb it for a while and dull it for a while. But is there that thing inside you where it's like an ache that grows, a groaning from deep inside you that something, it could be different and it needs to be different. And maybe, just maybe, God is calling me to be a part of that different. And this can be on the personal side. Maybe it's as simple as a healthy marriage and a healthy family. It's like, man, our family's not healthy, or my marriage isn't healthy. But in order to get from where it is to this marriage, I really love this. Look, everybody wants a happy, healthy marriage with lots of sex and great, perfect kids that do this and that and whatever, yada, yada. Well, one, the dream it's a little more complicated than that. But two, you want a happy, healthy marriage? You got to put the work in. I would like my marriage to be better. Have you considered counseling? No, that's too much work. It's going to be a lot less work just to go ahead and get divorced. And guys, we've talked about this before. Sometimes that is a healthy step. There are times with affairs, addictions, chronic things that it's like we need to make separation. But most of the time when I have been able to counsel couples, the big thing right there is really, are you willing to put in the work in your marriage? Or maybe it's a financial thing. Man, I'm so tired of living paycheck to paycheck. Cool. But are you uncomfortable enough to do something about it? I love the meme that's been out about, like, choose your hard, right? Being financially stable is hard, but so is living paycheck to paycheck. Marriage is hard, but so is divorce. Choose your hard, choose your hard. Being in shape is hard, but so is being out of shape. I've been both. Choose your hard. Healthy relationships. Yeah. Like these things, choose your hard. And I love, man, I was personally hit last week. I loved where Pastor Thomas left it last week. May God bless you with discomfort. With a divine discomfort that says, I can't stay in this place anymore. I don't care if it takes work, and I don't care if it's going to cause pain, because there's pain sitting here. I got to change. I got to do something different. May God bless you with discomfort. And maybe it's those personal things, or maybe it's a much bigger thing that when you see needs in this world, that it's like God is calling you to, you see something like, I can't just pass by. Is it nothing to you, all who pass by? When you, my friend Jane, a couple years ago, she's like, I can't keep passing by. She's currently been battling COVID. But she runs Change for Change, and she leads it with some others from here for homeless ministry. It's like I can't just keep passing by without doing something. I need to help people, and they're now it's like it's not just those homeless people. It's like these are my friends, and she can tell you name after name after name after name of people that she cares for and helps feed and helps clothe and prays with. Or my friend Jade. And Yashira, you're going to hear from her a little bit later on this morning. She can tell you exactly what is going on with kids in our community that are currently needing a place to stay. Children that need somebody to show them that they are loved and that they are valuable. And it's that, man, lamentation, is it nothing to you, all who pass by? does it affect you? I cried and my eyes were overflowing with tears, and there was no one to comfort me. And Nehemiah, this unlikely hero, the cupbearer, a eunuch, a slave, a foreigner, says, all right, my name means bring comfort. God's going to bring comfort through me. But in order for you to comfort others, sometimes you got to get to that place where God blesses you with a divine discomfort with the way things are right now. You got to feel it. Second thing is this, prayer. Ask it. Ask it. And prayer is more than just like, here's my list of requests. It's actually aligning my heart with his. See, if we treat God just like a vending machine, vending machines are great. God's not a vending machine. I love going to the vending machine. Pop my couple quarters in, push a couple buttons, I get what I want. I'm not even going to break down that metaphor. I go to the place, I pop my coins in, I make my request, and out pops what I want. Prayer is aligning my heart with his so that when I do ask, I'm actually asking in line with God's will. Look at James chapter 4, verse 3, if you don't believe me. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your own pleasures. He's like, look, James is like, look, guys, you're praying, but all your prayers are really just about you. When my vision for your life is so much bigger than that. Your name, your identity is wrapped up in me, in the King, and you're going to be one, I'm going to bring comfort through you if you would just let me. Prayer, ask it. Align your heart with his. And if we're being honest this morning, if you're being real and being honest, you're being vulnerable with your heart, can I ask you that question? What parts of your life, if you were to be honest, are like those broken down walls in Jerusalem? What broken walls do you see that if your heart was in line with God in your own life or in the community and the world around you? Caitlin Chess said this, the thing about grace is that it gives us freedom to be honest about the brokenness in ourselves and in our communities. If whatever you're calling grace is more interested in hiding, ignoring, or quickly moving on from sin, it is not grace because it's not honest. Man, that's worth repeating. Sorry, I'm going to repeat it. The thing about grace is that it gives us freedom to be honest about the brokenness in ourselves and in our communities. If whatever you're calling grace is more interested in hiding, ignoring, or quickly moving on from sin, it is not grace because it's not honest. And if you're saying, what does she know? She's actually really smart. This was her Twitter yesterday. 10 out of 10 would not recommend tweeting about masks. She's smart. Very intelligent person. It's okay, you can laugh at that one. Thing, I'd say. Plan. Passion, prayer, but planning. This one's hard for me. I'm horrible at it. I want to make a difference in the world. Cool. How? I don't know. I want things to be different. Cool. How? I don't know. But planning is where caring about something brings clarity so things actually start to happen. It's about seeing it more clearly. I mean, if you were paying attention to what Nehemiah just did, he just went from like, hey, yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I got a whole plan. I need this guy. I need letters for here. I'm going to go ask Asaph for timber. Also set me up with the guards. This was not just I don't know, I just want to go do something. I'm just going to go build the walls. How are you going to do it? I don't know. No, he moves into a place of planning. Luke 14. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone's going to make fun of you. They're going to say, ha, you didn't finish your work. You say, man, that seems really insensitive. Who said that? Jesus. It's like, yeah, like, count the cost. Plan it out. I love I would compare this to the Bill and Ted thing. Bill and Ted have this dreams of like, we're going to change the world. We got to get Eddie Van Halen. We got to shoot this amazing music video. We need these really awesome things. And then Ted finally goes, Bill, maybe we should learn to play. That's my best Keanu. That's the only one once. Fourth one, share it. Passion, prayer, planning, partner. Partner. Nehemiah 2:17. Then I said to them, so he goes and he inspects these walls. He gets out the measuring tape and he's like, okay, this needs fixed here, this needs fixed there. He gets the gloves out. He's got his materials. He's ready to go. And he says this, I said to the people around me, these other Jews, you see the trouble we're in. Have you not been paying attention, guys? Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. And I also told them about the gracious hand of my God and how it was on me and what the king had said to me. And they replied, let us start rebuilding. So they began this good work. John Wesley, the famous 18th century theologian and pastor, founder of the Methodist movement, said this, I set myself on fire and people come to watch me burn. He was known for preaching dozens of sermons in a week. He just went out and gave his heart every single time. And the last thing I would say is put into action. Do it. See, there's the point where we can do all those other things. Oh, by the way, if you're looking for synonyms, get going, get cracking, pull the trigger, ready, set, go. Engage. Star Trek fans, okay. Green light, go, do something, now, go. You can pray about it, you can have a passion for it, you can even plan it out. You can tell other people about it and they can get inspired too, but if you actually don't start doing something, you're still going to be there. Because the difference between where you're at and where you want to be and where God's calling you to is the work you're willing to put in and the pain you're willing to endure. Just do it. There's a point where you put your feet to the pavement, you just do it. It's like, all right, I got to do something. The discomfort's overwhelming. I actually have to do something now. It's where it's like, okay, yeah, I got the gym membership. I put on my yoga pants. You don't want to see me in yoga pants. I'm ready to go. I got a trainer. Did you do anything? No. How long have you had the membership? 6 months. How many times have you been? 0. Or I went to the membership or to the gym. It was great. I sat there the whole time and watched everybody else. There's this. Okay, I'm just gonna vent real quick. There's this dude at the gym that I swear every time I'm like, do you just like hang out here? This is not Cheers. Like, do something. Move. Do something. And because I just have to go encourage other people. I know I keep my mouth shut. That'd be really funny if I did say something, though. If anybody needs a glass of wine, it's there for you. Do something. Put into action. When I think about this, I think about my friend Jade. I mentioned her earlier, and Yashira. Jade and Yashira are two amazing humans. I actually want to have her come on up real quick. And can you welcome her to the platform? Hey. How you doing, my friend?
Good.
So right in this spot, several months ago, Jade walks up after one of our services, and fighting tears is talking about her biggest passion, about the thing that she could not just walk by anymore, and how it broke her heart. So Jade, you and Yashira, you've fostered, adopted so many kids, and even in the last couple hours, days, and then we also have this really exciting ministry. We're partnering Safe Families this opportunity. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey and a little bit about Safe Families?
Okay, so we are foster parents currently. And basically what happened was we have this huge surge in kids and in families that need our help. And I said, listen, we have a crisis. We have a pandemic going on. We have kids right here that need our help. And what a better place to come but here to get that help. And so really I just tossed that out real quick to him, and then things have been kind of lining up since then. But Safe Families is even better than foster care or a system. I know I'm part of that system, and I'm saying that, But Safe Families is what Grace City is about because it is where strangers become friends and then they become families. Safe Families was started in 2003 out in Chicago, and it was basically this guy, he was working within the foster care system, and a mom came to him and said, I need help. She said, I've got to go to work to be able to afford my housing, but I don't have babysitting for my kids. Can you help me? And he said, no, we're the foster care system. We don't help until after kids have been abused. And she said, but I don't want my kids to be abused. I want better for my kids. And she said, I need your help now. And he said, well, I don't really know what to do about it. So he went home and he talked to his wife, and basically the short version is he took on her kids for just a few weeks until this mom was able to get her life back in order. She was able to get back on her feet with her job and with her housing, with her apartment, and provide stability for her kids. And so he started Safe Families. And the goal is to create extended family-like supports for families in crisis or for those at risk. It is focused entirely on biblical hospitality, which literally means the love of strangers. It's the radical generosity that we've been talking about here. It's not foster care, it's not adoption, but it is the church extending themselves to become families to those in need. And so parents actually get to maintain full custody of the kids. We just step in to help them, mentor them, get them through this hard time, be their friends, be their families. It's not this broken system. I know foster care is a big, scary word. I know adoption can be a big, scary word or have some hurts in your own lives about this system. This is about being a family. So if we can go to the next slide, I'll show you how we do this practically. So there's our family in crisis, and there are so many different options for us as a church family. I'm not perfect. My story, I would love to share my story with you. We have a lot of ups and downs. We have a lot of hard things. We have a lot of things that we've gone through. But there are so many different ways to be involved. There's a host family, which is essentially what we do, where you take in children that are in crisis or that need help. If you are called to that, please come help me, please. We have 8 kids at home right now. We had 9 earlier this week. The kids right now, especially, we need help. We need host families to step up. But then there's also a family friend. And the family friend is your mentor. They're going to come alongside the biological family. They're going to take the kids to the park to play so that mom can have a moment to collect herself or to study for a test or whatever it may be. Go grocery shopping. They are going to be the family friend for the host family as well. You have a family coach. We need that role as well. A family coach is there to support the host family, to check in and say, hey, do you need help setting up doctor's appointments or getting them to an eye exam or something like that? Hey, mom, do you need help figuring out what job to get or how to get there? Then there's the resource friend. Your resource friend is someone that says, I can't really have someone in my home, or I don't really know how comfortable I feel with families and relationships, but I can give. And so I give backpacks at back to school. And so I give pajamas when a kid first comes and they don't have pajamas. And so there's all these different ways that as a church and as a community, we just become family. And it's not about, it's about meeting the need. It's about God put us in this place, and we may be a mess, and we may be loud, and we may be broken at times, but it's just being there for each other and showing up for each other. So real quick, Safe Families, they do screen foster homes or host family is very similar to foster care. They do monitor the kids that come into your care, but this is a little bit more relaxed, more laid back. The average stay is actually 44 days that a child would come stay with you. And then 70% of those kids are actually 5 years old or below. This past week, I had a 2-week-old, a 2-year-old, and a 3-year-old join us for 3 days. And then the day that they left that evening, we actually got called for a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. And so the majority of these kids are just young kids. And it's kind of like Jeremy said, you know the need. You can't ignore it anymore. Now we have to do something about it. Our goals are to prevent child abuse, to keep kids out of coming into the system, to keep kids from coming out of care, and to stabilize that family, to support that family that needs us. So really?
Awesome. So if there's all kinds of different people and different callings that are in the room, but some people hearing this morning may specifically be feeling like, man, my heart is tugging, like I'm seeing myself right there, and I would love to be a part of helping. What's the next step? How can they connect with you to hear more about it?
This is a huge calling. It's a lot that I'm asking. It's a lot that God's asking. But I'm going to be outside after the service, in between services. And if you're interested at all in considering hosting, if you're interested in being a family friend or a mentor, if you're interested in being a resource family, or if you just want to honestly come hear stories, come hear about it, come get more information, come put your name down for me and let me know what you're interested in, so that way we can all get connected and we can keep growing our family.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being you, and thanks for being obedient to God asked for you. I'm giving you a hug. Absolutely amazing. Jade and Yashira, fantastic. And it's been so great having them be a part of our church family. And to hear her pastor, I'm telling you, that day shook me right here, fighting back tears. And your calling, your good work that God's calling you to, it may be like, yes, I just got inspired. I need to join in with that. Or maybe yours is totally different, like with my friend Kelly with Blake Cares and partnering there, or with Jane and partnering with, serving the homeless in our community. There's something that God's calling you to. And I'm just asking, like, what do you do? How do you take that first step? What's your first step? And are you willing to take it? The team's going to come on up. We're going to close in one more song of worship. And I wanted to give you, as we close up this morning, I wanted to give you just one more thought, one more encouragement. What I'm not saying is that it's going to be easy. It's actually going to be brutal. As soon as you take a step, and by the time you get to the end of chapter 2, there's a whole bunch of guys that are out there mocking Nehemiah and his efforts. They're calling him out. They're trash talking him. The attack will come. We'll talk more about it next week. But I wanted to end with just some kind of encouragement this morning. And I was thinking about some of my favorite Olympic moments because of the Spirit, watching old clips. You know what my absolute favorite one is? It's this guy, Derek Redmond. It was back in 1992. I remember watching this as a kid. I was only 10 at the time. The Olympics in Barcelona, it was the 400 meter. He is a crazy fast athlete, had been battling different health obstacles. He kept having setbacks and injuries. The Olympics, it's the big stage, right? And he's out there and he runs with everything he's got, the 400 meter, and tragedy happens. He's got this race that he's ready for, but pulls a hamstring in just absolute anguish. You can see it right here. Here's a picture. He just hits the ground, and he's there, and it's like it's happened. And medics come rushing up to take care of him and to pull him off, and he pushes and shoves them out of the way. And he gets back up, and with the jacked up hamstring, just gets right back to his race. But my favorite part is this. His dad jumps out of the stands, runs up, arm around him to the finish line. All the way my Savior leads me, cheers each one path I tread. The only encouragement I can give you this morning to leave you with is, yes, the road is often hard. It's much easier to sit and drink wine than it is to get to work. But the Father's with you, cheering you on, coming alongside with arms wrapped around. I answered them, these critics, and said, the God of heaven, the King of Persia will give us success now. No, the King of heaven will give us success. We, his servants, will start the rebuilding. Let's worship together. We stand and join me.
Can't go back to the beginning. Can't control tomorrow, but is the place where you promised to be. As I walk, I feel good. Let your love rise above me. Like the sun shaping the shadow in my weakness, your glory. Not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? Not for a minute was forsaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Come, Holy Spirit, God is away again. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Not for a minute was forsaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Come, Holy Spirit, God is away again. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Unless you come, will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? Sing that again. Not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again?
when we embrace the pain that we're going through or the pain that we see in this world, God meets us along the way. And so you don't have to be overwhelmed with this responsibility to do a good work. You are already gifted and created in the image of God and prepared with all that you need to go and do that good work today. And so we're so grateful that you would join us and pack this room out and be with us online this morning to celebrate who God is and what he has done for us as a place like this, as a people like this, Grace City. And so we're so grateful for you as family. If you would like to give an offering on your way out, we have a box, or you can give online at wearegrace.city. If this is your first time with us, we don't want anything from you except a hope that you'll come back, because we are a place where strangers become friends and friends become family. And that's not just on a Sunday, that's everywhere that we go. And so, hey, as you go, do not forget to be the church right where you are with everything that you have right now. We love you. We'll see you next Sunday.